This was a similar project, similar to what Aaron was talking about in Central Texas. We don't have exactly your prototype bass lakes. A lot of our lakes are very rocky. They don't look like good bass water. And so we have fish attractor projects on a number of lakes to try to help people catch fish, give them a place that they can target fish, either crappie or bass. And so this is what the presentation is about. I want to thank my crew for working on these projects. They're a lot of work, and as you'll see, there's quite a few cooperators too that have helped us on these. If you look at fish attractors, they're generally used by a lot of different fish and wildlife agencies, fisheries agencies across the United States. They concentrate, cover seeking species, increase angler catch rates, and a variety of materials and designs are used. When you look at the materials that are used on these things, they're everything from PVC pipe to pallets over here in the middle to kind of a brush has been used by a lot of different different agencies and people. When you dive on these things, and I've done a lot of diving, I'm a scuba diver, and really am thrilled to go down and actually look at the fish that are on the attractors. What you'll see is there'll be a lot of small fish around the attractors, and a lot of times your predator fish, there we go. Your predator fish aren't actually in the brush itself, but they'll be kind of around the outside of it and waiting for a small fish to come outside the protective cover and relieve them. That's pretty cool. When you dive on these, if the water's clear enough, you can see the fish, and like I said, I'm just kind of thrilled to go down and look and see what the fish are doing. Two different types of fish attractors. Brush attractors are kind of like standard, although in a lot of cases they quickly degrade. You have to go back over the next couple of years and replenish them. But if you have one that consistently produces fish, a lot of times you don't have to drop nearly as much brush. You can go back and just add a little bit of brush and they'll become just as effective. The plastic attractors, companies have sold these, but what we found and what the literature seems to support is that they don't attract predator fish as well. They're often quite expensive. And overall, looking at all across the United States, they don't seem to have as good a satisfaction rate among the agencies that have used them. One of the states that uses plastic attractors extensively is Arizona. I don't know if you've ever watched the FLW tour out on Lake Havasu, but a lot of times the guys will be out there fishing the structures that Arizona has put in. But they're neat, they're fun to design, you can get real creative. These are some plastic attractors that we used on Canyon Lake, which is a lake over just to the west of San Marcos that we tried. These are plastic attractors, spent about $5,000 on materials on these. These are staged up, ready to be put out, easy to be put out. The problem was when we dove on them and looked to see how many fish were actually on them, they didn't attract fish very well. They did a great job. They last a long time, 15 or 20 years, but they don't nearly attract nearly as many fish as a brush attractor. So in Central Texas, we've kind of gone strictly with these juniper trees for a lot of different reasons. One is they're generally available right along the shoreline, so they're very easy to get. They're considered a nuisance species. Everybody is very happy to get rid of them. 100% free. Only costs us about $1.60 to put them on for half a block. When they're green, they sink real easily. You only need a half a cinder block to get them to sink. I've even heard that you can sink them without a cinder block. We've never tried that. I just want to make sure they stay on the bottom. They provide good cover. They last 2 or 3 years, but one of the downsides is they're a pain to work with. They're very cumbersome to work with. We use 2 flat bottom boats to put them out. A lot of times where we're working will be a good distance away from where we actually put the attractors. And with these flat bottom boats, we can move 4 or 5 bundles of brush to an area very quickly. With a pontoon boat, what we found is that a lot of times we'll pile a ton of brush on a pontoon boat, but it might take them an hour to get over to the place where we're going to put it. And a lot of times they have a hard time driving it specifically on the spot. When we mark the spots, we try to be very, very precise on where exactly we want to put it. And so with a smaller boat, you can precisely put the brush out so that when you record a GPS coordinate, you know it's right there. These are the 3 reservoirs that we've worked on. Canyon Lake, this is the one we've worked on the longest. We've worked on it since 2005, pretty much an annual event. Lake Georgetown, we've worked on this one since I think 2006. We have a very big group, the Sun City Georgetown Hunting and Fishing Club. It's a pretty big club, mainly made up of retired guys, and they do a great fish attractor project. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the things that they do to make it a great project. And Lake Buchanan, we work with Lake Buchanan Conservation Association. Canyon Lake, we work with various groups, including the BASS, Texas Bass Federation, several bass clubs, just local volunteers, and so on. Look at the reservoirs, and this is really where I think brush attractors work the best, is like I said, in Central Texas, we don't have your typical type of bass lake. It's not something that you would, we have rocky shorelines, not a whole lot of wood cover, hardly any vegetation. The water levels tend to fluctuate a lot, they go up and down, and so we don't really get much aquatic vegetation established in the shallow water areas. And typically the largemouth bass catch rates are low, even though on these lakes, largemouth bass is still the most sought-after species, usually comprising about 40 to 50% of the fishing effort. So people are targeting bass on these lakes, yet they don't typically produce the highest catch rates, not typical to what you would see over here in East Texas. So some things to consider if you want to get involved in a fish attractor project. Partnerships are very, very important. The Parks and Wildlife Department, as Aaron talked about, our management crews are only made up of 4 people. And without partnerships, we can do these projects. They tend to just be very difficult to complete in a short period of time, and very labor intensive for just 4 people to do these. We can provide expertise and equipment for deploying attractors. Like I said, these flat bottom boats that we use, we can pull out 4 or 5 big bundles all at the same time and get them put on a very specific place. We can give some good locations for putting the attractors. The controlling authority, another important partner on Canyon Lake, the Corps of Engineers provides us with a permit, of course, to do this, and they also have provided us with a good location for doing it. On this particular place here, we've got a closed boat ramp, and we can stack and stage the trees on the boat ramp. The boats can pull right up. There's no rocks, there's nothing to trip over, and we can load them onto the boat very easy. Fishing clubs, they've also provided funding for the materials. The Lake Buchanan Conservation Corporation has provided funding for the blocks and the ties. One important thing, they also provide lunch for everybody, which is great. We all get together at lunch, and it's kind of a good event for us to socialize with everybody. Probably the main thing is that the volunteers are critical for cutting the trees, hauling to the staging site, bundling, and loading. See, this gentleman here is down on the ramp, and he's actually getting the trees staged up so that when we pull up with the boat, the trees are ready to go. They load them into the boat, and we can move a lot of brush quickly. We can move 400 or 500 bundles of brush in less than 8 hours if this is done correctly. And we have some help. So some other considerations. One is you want to try to cut your trees close to the staging location in an area where they will play so you don't have to run long distances with them. Closed boat ramps, as I said, are ideal locations for staging and loading the attractors. In terms of site locations, We like to typically put them on structure type spots where the fish are going to be anyways, but we can kind of provide us the spot on the spot where the fish will actually concentrate. Like to put them on points, river channel edges, creek channel swings, kind of your very classic type of structure places. One thing that is important to just increase your efficiency is to make sure that you pre-select your sites for deployment. Because a lot of times, if we only have 2 boats out there putting the stuff out, if I'm out running around looking for sites, it slows things down. So we try to get those ahead of time, so that we can get the brush in the boat and move right to the spot. And we'll mark those with a couple of buoys, one on one side, one on the other. We want the brush placed right here. Very, very simple. A lot of times your controlling authority will want a minimum depth for you to put them at. Especially if the lake fluctuates, they don't want the brush sticking up. On the Corps of Engineers lakes, it's typically been about 20 to 25 feet. And in our neck of the woods over there, that's fine. That's not going to be too deep. It's not going to be so deep that it's going to be below the thermocline in the summertime. The fish will use it year-round. And then out of boat lanes is kind of common sense stuff. We try to schedule the projects for winter months, January, February, when it's still cool. So we're cutting the brush and not getting all sweaty and getting it cedar all over us, and you don't have to deal with insects and snakes and all the other things. We typically like 8 to 10 bundles per site, with an 8 to 10 foot tree being about the perfect height, so it's not so big that you can't move it. And usually do about 100 4x8 blocks for about 300 to 400 trees is what we'll come out with. And we can typically do a project like this in 1 to 2 8-hour days, and we'll get it done. A lot of times on the first day we'll just do our cutting and staging, and then the second day we'll do our deployment. You can go ahead and get it out. And the lunch deal here, if you can swing it, is a good deal. So this is kind of a map of Ledges Canyon Lake, the one we've been doing the longest. We've got 40-something fish attractor sites out here, and we'll give out the GPS coordinates. This is also on our website. You can imagine, in the day's fishing, you're probably not going to be able to hit all these. So you can make a kind of a milk run around the lake and fish the ones that will find some at certain depths are going to be more productive than others. And this is what we've done since I believe 05 or 06. Yeah, and they work. They work well. The fish aren't always on them, but they'll be there, especially in the winter, summertime. Wintertime can be really good when the fish are really bunched up on them. That's it. Time for questions.